I guess you don't count, my sister told me at her wedding, seating me by garbage. I left quietly. When she saw my gift later, she realized what she'd done. I, 31M, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister. Growing up, we were never particularly close, but I always thought we at least respected each other. That illusion shattered completely last weekend at what should have been one of the happiest days of her life. My sister was getting married to her partner of 5 years. I received the invitation about 3 months ago, and despite our differences, I was genuinely happy for her. I RSVP'd promptly, bought a nice gift, and even got a new suit for the occasion. The wedding was at this upscale vineyard about an hour outside the city. I arrived early, as I always do for important events. The venue was stunning, rows of grapevines stretching into the distance, a beautifully decorated outdoor ceremony space, and an elegant reception hall with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the countryside. I checked in at the welcome table, where a cheerful wedding coordinator checked my name off the list. Her smile faltered slightly as she looked at her clipboard. "Oh, you're right. Let me show you to your seat," she said, her voice noticeably less enthusiastic. I followed her, expecting to be led to the ceremony area where other guests were already gathering. Instead, she led me around the side of the building, past the kitchen entrance, to a small area near the service entrance. There was a single folding chair set up next to the venue's trash bins. Not even a proper table, just a chair, sitting alone. "There must be some mistake," I said, looking around in confusion. The coordinator looked uncomfortable. "I'm just following the seating chart. Let me go check with the bride." I stood there, stunned, as other guests walked past, giving me curious glances. About 5 minutes later, my sister appeared in her wedding dress, looking annoyed. "What's the problem?" she asked, not even bothering with a greeting. "There's been some mistake with my seating," I explained, gesturing to the lone chair by the garbage. She looked at the chair, then back at me, and with a coldness I'll never forget said, "No, that's correct. I guess you don't really count as family anymore, do you? At least not enough for a proper seat." I felt like I'd been slapped. We'd had our disagreements over the years, but nothing that warranted this level of humiliation. I could see a few guests pretending not to listen from around the corner. Without saying a word, I picked up the gift I had brought, stood up, and walked away. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell or cry. I simply left. The drive home was a blur. My phone started buzzing with messages about an hour later, mostly from mutual friends who had witnessed what happened, a couple from my parents asking where I'd gone. I turned it off and spent the evening trying to process what had just happened. 2 days later, I finally turned my phone back on to find dozens of missed calls and messages. Apparently, after I left, things took an unexpected turn. According to my cousin, who called me immediately, my sister had gone pale when she opened my gift during the reception. Inside the box with the kitchenware was a card containing a check, a very substantial one. I had been saving for years to help her with a down payment on a house, something she and her partner had been struggling to afford in our expensive city. It was money I had originally set aside for my own future, but I wanted to help her start her married life on solid ground. The card simply read, "Despite everything, I want you to be happy. Congratulations." My cousin said my sister burst into tears in front of everyone. When her new spouse asked what was wrong, she had to explain what she'd done, placing me by the trash bins and her cruel words. Apparently, the reception became quite awkward after that. Now my phone won't stop ringing. My sister has called 17 times. My parents are furious with her. Her in-laws, who I've always had a good relationship with, are horrified. And I'm just sitting here, still processing everything. I haven't answered any calls yet. I'm not sure what to say or how to feel. Part of me wants to forgive and move forward, but another part feels like a line has been crossed that can't be uncrossed. Update 1. It's been a week since the wedding incident, and I finally decided to answer some calls. I spoke with my parents first, who were equal parts apologetic and angry. According to them, my sister had been acting strangely for months leading up to the wedding, becoming increasingly hostile toward me specifically. I also learned something I hadn't known. Apparently, my sister's partner had initially wanted me to be a groomsman. My sister had vetoed this without explanation, which had caused some tension between them. This was news to me, as I'd always thought we got along well enough. Yesterday, I finally agreed to meet my sister at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I arrived early and watched her walk in, looking nothing like the confident bride from a week ago. Her eyes were puffy, and she seemed to have lost weight. She sat down across from me, hands wrapped around her coffee mug like she was afraid it might escape. "I don't even know where to start," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "The beginning would be good," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. What followed was a confession that left me reeling. For years, she had harbored a deep resentment toward me that I had no idea existed. It started when we were teenagers. She felt our parents favored me, gave me more opportunities, more praise. While I was working hard in school and later building my career, she interpreted my focus as arrogance, my achievements as ways to make her look bad by comparison. But that's not even close to reality, I said. Mom and Dad were always harder on me. They expected more. You were the one who got away with everything. She shook her head. That's not how I experienced it. Every time you succeeded at something, they'd ask why I couldn't be more like you. The conversation continued like this for nearly 2 hours. Two people who had grown up in the same house, but experienced completely different childhoods. The wedding seating wasn't a sudden act of cruelty. It was the culmination of years of festering resentment. When I saw that check, she said, tears forming, I realized how wrong I'd been. You've always been there for me, and I've been creating this villain in my head that wasn't real. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her immediately, but another part needed time. I told her as much. I understand, she said. I wouldn't forgive me either. We parted with an awkward hug and a promise to talk again soon. On my drive home, I realized something important. While her actions were inexcusable, I had also failed to see her pain all these years. We had both been blind to each other's realities. Update 2. It's been a month since the wedding, and things have slowly been improving between my sister and me. We've had several more conversations, each one peeling back another layer of misunderstanding that had built up over the years. One revelation that hit particularly hard came during dinner at our parents' house last week. My mother, trying to be helpful, mentioned how proud she had always been of how I never needed much attention growing up, while my sister always needed reassurance. I watched my sister's face fall, and suddenly I could see exactly how such well-intentioned comments had fueled her perception that I was the favored child. What my mother meant as praise for my independence had reinforced my sister's belief that she was somehow deficient. Later that evening, my sister and I sat on our parents' back porch, something we hadn't done together in years. Do you remember when I won that science competition in 9th grade? I asked her. She nodded. Dad took you out for ice cream to celebrate. What you don't know is that he spent the entire time telling me I could have done better if I'd started preparing earlier, that I barely scraped by and needed to work harder next time. Her eyes widened. Really? He told everyone how brilliant you were. And do you remember when you got into art school? Mom told me she wished I had your creativity and vision. We spent hours trading stories like this, realizing how completely different our perceptions had been. The golden child I thought she saw me as was a fiction. The favored daughter I thought she was had never existed either. The wedding gift check remains uncashed. When I asked about it, my sister said she and her husband had decided they couldn't accept it after what happened. Instead, they've been saving on their own, determined to make their way without what she called guilt money. I respect that decision, though I've told her the offer remains open. Not out of guilt, but because that's what family does. They support each other, even when things get messy. Update 3. Today marks 6 months since the wedding, and I'm writing this from my sister's new apartment. It's not the house they were dreaming of, but it's a start. A one-bedroom place they're renting while they continue saving. I'm helping them move in, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator is broken. My sister and I have established a new tradition. We meet for coffee every other Sunday, just the two of us. No parents, no spouses, no distractions. Sometimes we talk about the past, but increasingly, we focus on the present and future. Last month, she asked me something that caught me off guard. Why didn't you make a scene at the wedding? Anyone else would have. I thought about it for a moment before answering. Because I knew whatever was happening was bigger than that moment. Making a scene wouldn't have fixed anything. She nodded slowly. Your quiet exit spoke volumes more than any shouting could have. When you left, taking your gift with you, I felt something break inside me. Like I'd crossed a line I couldn't come back from. But you did come back, I reminded her. The relationship we're building now isn't perfect. We still have moments of tension, old habits that die hard. But there's an honesty between us that never existed before. The wedding incident, as horrible as it was, forced us to confront decades of misunderstandings. Her husband, who was initially furious with her after learning what she'd done, has gradually come around. He and I actually get along quite well, and he's been instrumental in facilitating our reconciliation. As for the check, we reached a compromise. I didn't want to force my help on them, but I also genuinely wanted to contribute to their future. So instead of a house down payment, I've set up a small investment account in both their names. It's their choice whether to use it someday or not. The most surprising development came last week when my sister asked if I would consider being the godfather to their future child. They're not pregnant yet, but they're planning to start trying next year. Are you sure? I asked, genuinely surprised. There's no one I trust more, she said simply. Sometimes I still think about that lone chair next to the trash bins. The humiliation I felt in that moment was real, and occasionally the memory still stings. But now I can see it as the breaking point we needed. the moment that forced us to finally see each other clearly. Family relationships are complicated. They're built on shared history, but filtered through individual perception. What one person experiences as rejection, another might not even register as significant. The stories we tell ourselves about our families shape how we interact with them, often in ways we don't fully understand. My sister and I are writing a new story now. It's not always easy, and we're both still learning how to be the siblings we never quite managed to be growing up. But for the first time, we're both making the effort to see each other as we really are, flawed, complex, and ultimately trying our best. And sometimes, that's enough.